Yesterday I lost my job. Another day I'm in a bar. Yeah. Being broke, it really sucks. It does. And the rent feels too damn much. Too damn much. It's too damn much.
All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Corvo Riot Show. I am Corvo Riot, your host, and it's been a minute. Kind of went away for a little bit again there. So before we get into today's conversation with my pal Fearon Burgundy, play-by-play commentator extraordinaire for the Monster Factory, for Monster Factory Pro Wrestling, and former radio personality, game show historian. We get into a bunch of weird, different topics on this one, so it's a fun conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But I need to address the elephant in the room, which would be why the hell I show up and disappear so frequently. Well, twice now, but I feel like I kind of owe it to the people who have taken the time to listen to this show and follow on social media and whatnot. I feel like I owe it to you to kind of fill you guys in and let you guys know, what the fuck's been going on with me. So let's do that. I don't have anything in front of me, so this is just going to be my thoughts just jumbled all over the place. So bear with me for a moment, but so basically I have struggled most of my life, actually. I was going to say my adult life, but it's probably stems back longer than that. I've struggled with mental health, and it's something I've actually been very active in working on and getting better with. I recently, a few months ago actually, started seeing a therapist online. That's been great. That's been super duper helpful. They've obviously got me on medication and whatnot for different things, but it's been good. I relaunched the podcast a while back after taking quite a bit of time off, and that was because basically my mental health had gone completely downhill. There was no getting anything accomplished in the headspace I was in. So I stopped. Pretty much stopped doing the podcast, stopped doing pretty much everything. Basically just shut down for a while. Started seeing the therapist online right around the time I relaunched the show, right around the time that both the episode with Major Macintosh and the Horror Movie Monday with Gabriel Hodder was coming out. It was right around the same time I was starting the whole journey with therapy and whatnot. So I started doing the therapy, and then I started working again because I need money. I need to pay my bills and keep a roof over my head, obviously. So I had to start figuring out how I was going to actually make money after 2020, Basically, 2020, the pandemic hit. I quit my job. I started this podcast like literally right before quitting my job, but afterwards I went all in really on this podcast and was doing, this show, and I was doing another one for a little bit. Then stopped. Obviously, like I said, my mental health went completely down. Started back up right around the time I was starting therapy and getting a little bit better. But then it came time I needed to find some type of income. So I started doing Uber Eats, which has been good. It works around my schedule, and I make enough money to, keep my bills paid, keep a roof over my head, all that fun jazz. So But between that, the therapy where I was with my mental health at the time, I just didn't get anything accomplished. And I have a bunch of episodes here. I'm literally looking at the screen as I'm talking, and I still have a Horror Movie Monday with Getty Cahoon to put out, which that'll drop Monday actually, from when you're hearing this. So I still have interviews with Benjamin King, Rico De La Vega. I have an old episode with Christian Rocco, which is so outdated by now, but I'm still gonna get it out because I feel like it was a decent conversation. And a couple other people, but yeah, I just couldn't get myself to a point where I could sit down in front of the computer, edit these up, record these intros, record the outros, and yeah. So, like I said, this is I have nothing in front of me, so this is just all over the place. But that's basically it. I've been working on my mental health and doing therapy and doing so much better. So, I mean, if you're out there, if you're listening, if mental health has ever been or is a struggle for you, seriously, don't. You got to be open-minded and just decide, hey, I'm gonna fix this shit, and it's doable. It's very fucking doable. This was, probably the best decision I've ever made in my life was to start seeing a therapist. And, there's just emotions and feelings that I used to feel, pretty consistently, pretty regularly. I hate saying the word regularly because I feel like I sound stupid when I say it, but, enunciate. But yeah, so just these feelings and emotions that I used to have a lot, that I'm not really having anymore. I've managed to get that shit really at bay, and I feel really good, and I feel like I'm making so much progress that I wish I would have started on sooner, but at the same time, I'm not going to look back at the past and harp on it and think, what if I would have... what if, who gives a fuck, what if? Think about the future. I'm 30, I just turned 32. I have, hopefully, many years ahead of me, and I'm going to make those the best that they can be to make up for the ones that weren't. So, fuck the past, look to the future. You can do it. There's resources out there. There's help out there. Find it. Take advantage of it. I'm telling you, if you go into it with an open mind and determined to take back control of your life and your mental health, you can do it. You just gotta, finally have enough and be willing to pull the trigger on it. So with that, let's head into my conversation with my old pal Fearon Burgundy. So welcome to the Corvo Riot Show. I am joined today by MFPW broadcaster, announcer, radio personality, Fearon Burgundy, former radio personality.
Former radio personality. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah. So, that's the thing, though. You actually do have a broadcasting background commentating wrestling, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I have my bachelor's degree in broadcasting, telecommunications, and mass media that I've gotten, shameless plug, from Temple University in Philadelphia. Supplemented it with what is now known as the CSB Media Arts Center, but was previously, when I went there, known as the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, where I got to learn a lot more of the hands-on type stuff. And yeah, from there, I worked at a radio station as a DJ, a talk show host, an on-air personality, an engineer, pretty much a jack of all trades, master of none, for about a dozen years, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah, that seemed to screw up a lot of shit for everybody.
It did, but when I found out about 6 months after I was, I guess furloughed is the official word, unofficially, they sent an email basically saying, yeah, we're going to need you to not come in, and we'll let you know when we need you back. And I finally got a phone call about 2 years after the fact, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I wasn't waiting by the phone to go back. Oh gosh, here we go. This is the shoot interview type stuff you're probably looking for. So here we go. To give you an idea of this station, in the 12 years that I was there, the only wage differential that I'd received was when minimum wage went from $7.15 an hour to $7.25 an hour.
Ooh, that big ass jump.
Yeah, I know, that big dime an hour jump for the roughly 7 or 8 hours a week that I was on. That's that we're in the money. Da, 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 da. Yeah, not really. But on top of it, and this was the part that made me go, yeah, I wouldn't go back if they gave me, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos money. Not that they have that, but they would.
That's a lot of money.
Exactly. But even if they had offered something close to that, I'd be like, no. Is the owner of said radio station happened to, at a very convenient time, make, even though he couldn't apparently afford to pay me $7.25 an hour, happened to have $2,500 to give to the local police department just 9 days after George Floyd was murdered.
Ah, so it's one of those radio stations.
Yeah, one of those.
What was this, like a Fox News affiliate or some shit?
Not officially. I mean, the radio station is a community station, but it definitely leaned on a political scale rather far to the right. And I kind of felt like I was their token, well, everything. Kind of like, yeah. I was their their one person of color. I was their one person on the person riding the rainbow, to put it somewhat political correctly. I kind of like checked all the boxes. So you'd think that they'd, at least for that, want to keep me around, but at the same time, given how far to the right things tend to lean for them, they were keeping me around for legal purposes, not necessarily out of desire. And that's, I should give a disclaimer that is solely my opinion based on the majority owner, and in no way reflects any of the other employees or management or anything of that particular radio station, which I'm not only doing it to disclaimer and cover my ass, but also because I enjoyed working with everybody who was there. Like, I didn't hate my experience there, right, for all of the negative things that I'm throwing down. It's just, it's compromising my morals isn't worth $7 and isn't worth like $50 a week.
Right. Yeah. It's it was a small time, like you said, community radio station, AM station.
Yeah, AM station, had been around for, at this point, I think later this year they'll be celebrating their 65th year on the air, celebrating 65 years on the air.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like December 1957 is when they took the airwaves.
Ooh, yeah, so they've been around a hot minute. And they've literally been around long enough to see things go from the 1950s right back to the 1950s. So,
yeah, which is hilarious considering that the town that the station is in, I had read, was what was known as a sundown town. Are you familiar with the concept?
I'm not familiar with the term.
So a sundown town, and I'm pulling up, thankfully being on a computer here, I'm able to make sure that I'm not misspeaking things here. But the definition of a sundown town or sunset town or something of that nature, it's an all-white municipality or neighborhood that practice a form of racial segregation by excluding non-whites via some combination of discriminatory local laws, intimidation, or violence. And the term came from signs that colored people had to leave town by sundown.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's that particular and in that particular town. I'm like quickly looking at the specifics of it here, but there was. Oh yeah, all I have to do is type in 1957 town and incident, and yeah, it's amazing how that just comes up here. And wait, they made a movie out of it with George Clooney? I had no idea. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, it was okay. Suburbicon. It was based on an African American family that moved into a cookie cutter suburb populated entirely by white people in the summer of 1957, and were threatened by and harassed by their white neighbors in an effort to get them to move out of that town, in that same year.
It's incredible that.
Yeah, so the Suburbicon movie that George Clooney had helmed was based off of this incident that happened in the town to which my radio station was in a different suburban development.
It's incredible what you can find out there.
Yeah, like this is stuff that, I mean, I knew bits and pieces. I did not know that this was a George Clooney movie from about 5 years ago.
Oh, that
so
was recent.
I'm learning too. Yeah, it's right in the heart of like even in one of the thing I'm reading here on the Hollywood Reporter, it talks about the parallels to the then recent protests in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oof. So,
but I love how this is a wrestling podcast, and already
we've
less
gone
than 10 minutes in, I have completely derailed what has gone on here.
I don't really consider it a wrestling podcast.
It's just
it's
talking
kind
about
of
life and shooting the shit podcast.
Yeah,
kinda.
It's an anything podcast. Actually, I'll be doing an episode upcoming with somebody where we're just going to talk about the Friday the 13th films. So
okay,
that's going to be a recurring thing. So it's
a track, you can't derail it.
Exactly.
Pointing at my head like the meme.
It is a clusterfuck podcast.
Oh, I am all here for it.
Enjoying a nice beverage, I see.
Yep, a little bit of mimosa here.
Ah, we're getting Fearon Burgundy, folks, the classiest broadcaster in sports and entertainment.
Well, there's definitely an unclassy side to me, as you know personally, but the public persona and the behind-the-scenes persona are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, you're also
and it's kind of the hybrid of the two.
Yeah,
you're gonna get like the glimpses of the darker shade of burgundy here.
There we go. You're also you're the only guy I know in wrestling who's got a broadcasting background like that, and then you're this throwback to, which I know is by design, a throwback to the old game show hosts of yesteryear. Which you're
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you're like a historian of that stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah, it hasn't been released by the Monster Factory. I don't know if it will, because it was very much a hodgepodge put together thing, and I know that Danny Cage, the head of the Monster Factory, is very big on presentation. But last November, we did a fun thing one night at training where I came in, I was all dressed up in the suit and everything, and we did a night of Factory Feud.
Okay, I wasn't there for it, but I do remember hearing about this, yes.
Yeah, and it coincided with something that I was doing on my Twitch stream I was basically ponying up my own money as prize money, quote unquote, that was going to be donated to the Lupus Foundation of America in honor of my late mother, who passed away at that point 1 year earlier in November of 2020.
Okay.
So it was meant to have a little bit of fun, and at the same time to do something for a good cause. And because I love doing that whole game show MC thing, and because it was kind of a fun thing of putting Team Danny Cage, and some 4 students against Team Missy Sampson, and 4 students as well, Missy being one of the coaches, it was just a nice way to kind of involve folks and do something a little bit different and kind of get the students to think on their feet in a totally different way, because pro wrestling is a lot about relatability with your audience.
Right.
And Family Feud, in terms of answering the questions, trying to follow what the 100 surveyed people had said, is about relating to the people in those surveys. So in a very indirect, twisted way, there was a lesson to be learned via this fun thing.
Right. Yeah, it's an outside the box way of doing it. Yeah.
It's something, you know, it's a different way to get somebody comfortable in front of a camera. And I mean, if you think about it, as a pro wrestler, I mean, how many over the years have we seen things where we've seen WWE superstars on a Family Feud, or, you know, making a cameo on, let's say, Let's Make a Deal or The Price is Right, or one of those other big game shows. I think John Cena, Randy Orton, and Edge made a cameo on Deal or No Deal, for example.
Right. I mean, you go all the way back to the 90s, the WCW on Family Feud.
Oh, well, I mean, by that point, the Ray Combs version of Feud was trying to look for anything, so they had a ton of, you know, wrestlers versus, I mean, WWF wrestlers were on there, WCW wrestlers were on there, they had the American Gladiators on there, they had women from Glow on there.
That's right, I forgot about
they were just trying to get people to tune in.
Now, if I'm not mistaken,
it was difficult.
If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the Glow girls end up going up against the WCW guys? Or do I have that mixed up?
Now I'm trying to remember, because it does all blend together from like 30 plus years ago. And thankfully we have, there was a Glow versus WCW week. That is correct.
Yeah,
you were correct on that. I just, there were so many of those wrestler specials. That one was from 1990.
Okay, wow, that was the year I was born.
Yeah, no, so I mean, that's good memory on your part. In 92 and 93, they had WWF wrestlers on, partly as kind of a trade-off thing, because Ray Combs made those appearances at WrestleMania 8 and the 93 Survivor Series.
Okay.
So to kind of swap talent for that, they had the wrestlers come on and do Family Feud. And I'm like glancing at it here and seeing like the faces versus the heels, and you have like Shawn Michaels, who was then Intercontinental Champion, and the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, and over on the faces side you had like the Reverend Slick and Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm just like kind of hovering over the highlights here to see. Oh yeah, Crush Bra was there. Tatanka, and Big Boss Man. Scary to think how many of them aren't with us now, as I'm like just rolling through that here.
Yeah, that list actually. Ray Combs.
I mean, Ray Combs, oh gosh, yeah, that's a whole tragic thing. He ended his own life at the age of 40 in 1996.
Yeah.
But
there's been like a legacy of I guess the hosts of Family Feud not having the greatest lives outside of.
I think that might be a little stretched. I mean,
okay, yeah, I mean, I've heard it before, but
right now, real quick. So Richard Dawson, I mean, he, like, you go back to 1979, he was the man. Like, he was on a short list of people to potentially. I recently found this out and was flabbergasted by it. By like 79 and 80, Johnny Carson, who was hosting the Tonight Show, legendary figure. He ended up going on to do it for 30 years, from 62 to 92. But Johnny Carson was debating whether or not he wanted to renew his contract in like 79 or 80. And NBC had a short list of people who could potentially replace Johnny if he opted not to renew. And Richard Dawson was on that short list.
Wow. So that's saying something to
be
considered as. Be considered as Johnny Carson's replacement. That's
and unfortunately, thanks to kind of a last second no show when he was sub hosting for Johnny when Johnny was on vacation. That quickly took Richard Dawson from a short list of replacement to a blacklist of never allowed on again.
Wow. How quick that can turn around for you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some pettiness, and I mean, Richard also had some of that pettiness, and I think that's why he doesn't get the reputation that he necessarily deserves. I mean, he is the OG GOAT when it comes to Family Feud, but his ego definitely got the better of him. Like, the better the show did, the more his ego grew, and the more he became a pain in the ass to deal with on set. And his original run of Family Feud kind of ended for a number of things, but part of it was, the staff wasn't enjoying making the show because, they were dealing with this arrogant, host.
Right.
The audience was kind of souring to it because of overexposure. Like, it was on Monday to Friday in the daytime on ABC, 11:30 a.m., but it was also a big player in syndication. So kind of like how nowadays you have Monday to Friday Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, usually in that 7 to 8 p.m. slot.
Right.
Before that, before those shows had come on, syndication was kind of more of like a one night a week thing, similar to a lot of your big sitcoms and other things. It's like, all right, check out Family Feud Tuesday night at 7 on NBC 7 or whatever the case may be, whatever it was in the country. But Family Feud was so popular in 1979 that stations were asking and clamoring for more. So one night a week turned into 2 nights a week. And then after about a year and a half later, by like 1981, they made the then unprecedented move to go 5 nights a week of Family Feud, along with the 5 in the daytime.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
And it hit overexposure. Plus, on top of that, maybe once every 4 to 6 months, ABC would do a primetime hour-long special where they do a little mini tournament with, I don't know, members of, the cast of The Love Boat, and they did a bunch of those.
Like those celebrity editions.
The celebrity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now the syndicated as opposed to the daytime, were they different episodes, or was it the daytime episodes re-airing at night in syndication?
Oh no, they were different episodes, and the main difference was the top prize. Okay. At the end. In the daytime, if you won Fast Money, it was $5,000. In the nighttime, if you won Fast Money, it was $10,000, and you didn't get to return. It was a one-off, whereas in the daytime, you had returning champions.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so that's 10 hours, 10 episodes.
Well, 10 half-hour episodes of 5 hours a week, but plus the potential 1 hour special. So, I mean, on a given day, when you had that all-star special, you could have 2 hours of Family Feud in one day.
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
That's definitely oversaturating the airwaves there with Family Feud.
And this was in a time at which people, tend to not fathom because we have 10,000 cable channels. It feels like,
right.
But
this was,
back when there
cable
was
wasn't even really a thing.
NBC, yet. ABC, and CBS, and those were your 3 channels, and you kind of, your choices were limited. It was one of those 3 at any given point, and they were constantly battling for ratings.
Yeah, that's I think a lot of people forget. Even compared to 15 years ago, we had so many fewer stations, but pre-cable days, it's a whole nother story. Let's get into you a little bit, a little more.
It's the first time in a while a guy's told me that.
I was waiting for as it came out of my mouth. I knew it was
you
coming.
had it set up.
Yeah. But you actually trained at the Monster Factory to wrestle for a period of time. How did you get involved in the Monster Factory, and what led you to actually getting involved in pro wrestling?
Well, I mean, I had enjoyed pro wrestling going back to when I was a kid, and some will wonder how the heck I got interested in it, considering that the the very first time that it clicked, it was a little later for me than most. I was 11 years old, and I was at my aunt's house, and they had ordered WrestleMania 9, the world's largest toga party from Caesars parking lot, Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, Nevada, April 4th, 1993.
And you didn't just run completely away.
No, as a naive 11-year-old child, I mean, I was intrigued by all the pomp and circumstance, and I immediately gravitated to this guy who was being carried in on a sedan and being fed grapes by Vestal virgins in one Macho Man Randy Savage. I was like, I don't know who he is, but he is the coolest motherfucker I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Obviously, at 11 years old, I did not have the words motherfucker in my brain, but you get the idea.
Yeah, obviously. Which is amazing, though, because I don't know if too many people would point to WrestleMania 9 as being the thing that got them into it. But overall, though, like you said, it was more savage.
Yeah, I mean, and he was just the commentator, and I was just kind of like intrigued by everything he was doing. And then, of course, Bobby the Brain Heenan making an ass out of himself, riding him backwards on the camel. That was hilarious. Like, yeah. I mean, all these little things, and I haven't even gotten into the actual matches. I mean, looking back on it, the matches were... They kind of started off hot with Michaels and Tatanka, and for the most part went downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not
Undertaker and Giant Gonzalez with the chloroform and... But, I mean, it was definitely a spectacle, and I, at that point, was the audience that Vince McMahon was trying to bring in, and to his credit, it worked.
Right, yeah, that's the thing. 1993 was still very skewed towards the young audience, towards kids, They were still trying to sell larger-than-life, almost comic book characters come to life to a young audience. So how does that lead you down the road?
How does that lead me to the factory? Yeah. I got away from the initial question.
It's so nice having somebody with radio experience here to actually, keep this afloat.
Keep it, yeah, exactly. Not just go completely on a tangent and get lost. It's like, okay, I know that I got us off track. Let's get back to the question here. Yeah, I'm trying not to take your hosting thing, but at the same time, I also know where I screw up because I go on tangents all the time.
It's the first episode back, and I'm already taking a day off. It's all good.
Hey, you know what? Hey, you know how it is in wrestling. When you have somebody who you know and work with and work with well and can trust, it's one of the easiest jobs in the world. So I'm glad that you thought of me to be the first person to kind of bring you back into the fold here.
Yeah, I need somebody that sounds like they know what they're doing.
But you chose me anyway. How,
That's all right. I got Twitch scheduled for later in the week, so it's going to be kind of like the WrestleMania 9 card.
Oh gosh. I'm surprised you didn't bring us in together because I could at least reel him in as I had done for all those years on the Pro Wrestling Weekly radio show.
Yeah, I totally didn't even think of that.
That's all right. Maybe I'll make a cameo or something and just, I don't know, kind of like Wedding Crashers. But back to the actual questions. I keep getting away from it. So at the time that this was, I want to say 2014, 2015, I was doing my radio thing and I befriended a gentleman named Cameron Hall, who is better known by his persona RC, who runs a different podcast. Not that I want to advertise podcasts on other podcasts. But
me and Cameron are...
Oh, you and Cam are good.
Oh, yeah,
okay,
Cam's cool.
Yeah, completely damaged.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was venturing to a different thing where at his alma mater, Montgomery County Community College, he was going into live radio on the college radio station. And he was looking for somebody with experience in radio to kind of help guide and nurture him along the way because it was a foreign medium to him. And, of course, he knew me, and I came up, and I was like, all right, sure. So I think at the time it was Monday morning, I would go up to Montgomery County Community College, make a nice 45-minute drive, and he'd have various people on, and we'd just kind of shoot the breeze. Obviously, it was FCC regulated because it was over terrestrial radio. And we kind of got along the way. At one point, he had Danny Cage, who was the head of the Monster Factory, into the show. And that kind of got my gears turning of, all right, well, he's saying that, it's not necessarily too late for an old person like me. I was about to give some sort of a self-degrading adjective, but I opted not to. And I'm not necessarily too small, which is what I had always thought. I was intrigued by wrestling, but I thought, these, again, watching that larger than life thing, I'm like, I'm not 6'8", I'm not 300 pounds. There's no, now I'm a little bit closer to it, but that's thanks to a lot of beverages, but probably tipping the scales around 270, 275, but that's mostly beer gut at this juncture.
Yeah. You got to get on the gas.
Yeah. Well, gas has different terminologies between then and now.
Yeah, well.
But I kind of thought about it and was like, you know what? If not now, then when? At this point, I was like in my mid-30s, and, wrestling is to a degree a young man's game, but I thought, all right, let me use what little bit of time I've got left and give it a go. So in December of 2015, I was working up in Hatboro, Pennsylvania, and I just, that morning I made the decision, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give this a go. So I went to the ATM, or went to the bank before work, and took quite a bit of money out for the tuition at the time, and kind of felt like Ted DiBiase having all those $100 bills in my hand. And after work, I drove all the way down from Hatboro, Pennsylvania to Paulsboro, New Jersey, and Danny kind of asked, "Are you sure about this?" And I said 100%. And I gave him the money, paid my tuition in full right off the bat, and that was the beginning of that. And that was mid-December, and I'm kicking myself because I can never remember the 18th date, but I believe it was, as I'm stalling here, December 15th. It was Monday, December 15th, 2000. Wait, no, that's 2014. Damn it. I thought I clicked 2015. So would it have been Monday the 14th or Tuesday the 15th? Now I'm like forgetting. But either way, it was no, it was the 14th. Okay. So it was Monday, December 14th, 2015. And I went through the training that night and had been kind of a staple ever since.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize. I believe 2015 is when I got there, so I think you were there maybe just a few months prior to me.
Well, wait, 2016 was when you came back, or 2015?
No, it had to have been 2016. That's right, because you said December, right?
December of 20. Yeah, it was.
Okay,
right
yeah.
When,
so I
it was right when they were doing that kind of reality show-ish thing where they were kind of narrowing things down, and that was where. Like Dejana and a few of the others had first started.
The Making the Monsters thing.
Making the Monsters thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I came in probably like April of 2016 then.
All right, so you came in about 4 months after I had.
Yeah.
Twitch, who we had mentioned, Lucas Twitch DeSangro, he had started that previous July of 2015.
Okay, so he was already there when you started.
He was already there. He had about a 6-month head start. And that was based off of the 3-day camp that he and I attended in May of 2015 that made me contemplate that I actually had a chance of doing that thing. That was the weekend where I had, I found out that my brother had been kicked out of the house and would eventually go to rehab, and I had to cut promos with all that rattling around in my brain. And like less than a week earlier, I had a strained AC joint in my shoulder, and somehow got doctor's clearance to do the camp anyway. And I remember being so scared of taking a flip bump that QT Marshall, who's currently in AEW, he was there. Like, he even tried to hip toss me, and I just for some reason couldn't go head over, ass over tea kettle. And I love this story because it cracks people up. So he had looked at me and he was like, come on, what's the worst that can happen? And I just blankly stared and I said, death. And all the wrestlers just started falling over with laughter. And meanwhile, having me hooked up in this, about to hip toss position, QT was like, all right, well, I'll give you something to be scared of. And I had about 3/4 of a second to realize he was transitioning into giving me a vertical suplex. And to my credit, one, I jumped to make sure that, you know, I wasn't sandbagging him. And this is, again, with, like, no, like, insider wrestling knowledge apart from being, like, a radio guy and, you know, hosting a pro wrestling radio talk show, but not knowing the in-the-ring stuff.
Yeah.
And then I also took the flat back bump, just, you know, landed it perfect. And then, because I wasn't sure how to sell, I sold it like I actually was dead. But
That's
everybody
amazing.
applauded, and, you know, that was, like, everybody was jealous, because, like, oh, shit, QT got to suplex you. You know, we didn't, you know, none of us got to get suplexed.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, that's a moment that I still remember and hold dear to, and I'm sure QT probably wouldn't remember and would tell me to fuck. No, I shouldn't say that. No, QT is awesome, but I feel like that's one of those things where it was a bigger moment for me than it was for him, obviously. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be something that would immediately, like, if I mentioned that 3-day camp, that might stir a memory or two, but
Probably, because didn't a few guys start at the factory pretty much right after that camp?
I think so. Like, that was definitely a catalyst to bring people in.
Yeah. I know, obviously, Twitch, you came later on.
Yeah, I mean, and
Was
Twitch
that
at
the-
that point was only like 17.
That's right. Was that
Yeah,
the same
he had to
camp?
have his parents' permission.
They're probably just like, yeah, just get him the hell out of our hair for a while. Now, is that the
I
same
can
camp?
neither confirm nor deny that.
Is that the same camp Cody Vance came through?
Yes, that was the same camp that Cody Vance had skipped his college graduation in Michigan and drove all the way from Michigan to New Jersey to do the camp. Yes.
Okay, yeah, so that was a pretty pivotal camp then.
Yeah, or now known as Preston Vance or 10 in the Dark Order in AEW. Like, I know we're throwing these names out, but I figure for context, we should at least...
Yeah, definitely. I definitely try to let people know who the hell.
That's, again, me putting my radio hat on and going, all right, for the people who don't know, let's just fill them in here, not make it sound like it's some insider talk.
Yeah. So you come in, you start training full time.
Yep.
Did you have like an end goal in mind, or?
I still, to this day, don't have an end goal in mind. Are you kidding? No, I was just riding the wave because I figured at that point I was 34 years old. I'll be 41 in about a week and a half. Oh, mother bitch. Anyway, I'll be 41
I thought it was bad for me turning 32 in this September, but
yeah, I don't want to hear shit. No. But no, I'll be 41 later this month, and like I knew I was on borrowed time when I started, and it was about 14 months after I'd started that I'd found out that I had not one but 2 hernias.
That's right. I remember that now.
And I ended up having to go down for surgery to put mesh in to repair both of them, a left inguinal hernia and an umbilical hernia. So basically...
Okay,
like,
there, Gorilla Monsoon. Did your Fabulous Hubris get pulled too, or?
I was gonna say, don't make me come over and smack you in the external occipital protuberance. No, that's the back of the head for those who don't remember those Gorilla Monsoonisms. But no, so basically, the inguinal one is kind of like on the left side of my fupa, I guess, for you know the kind of that groin part of the area. And the umbilical is, you know, just like a baby has an umbilical cord, it was like right around the belly button.
Okay.
There we go. For the non-medical folks out there, now you've got an idea of where I had these two holes in my muscles in my body.
Yeah. So that obviously...
Way more detail than you probably wanted to hear. And for those who are eating, I do apologize.
Yes.
Now you've run up your lunch.
And before you go to bed tonight, I want everybody to think about Fearon's fupa. I want that to be the last
Hey, I
vision.
need
everybody's
somebody
had.
to at this point. I've been single for over a decade now.
I mean, it happens.
Yep, just let that sit. Exactly. You did the right thing by not saying a damn word.
So, 2 hernias. You're obviously going to be sidelined. That pretty much
yes and no.
sidelined you for. I mean, you pretty much were done after that.
Well, in ring, yes, basically.
Yeah.
Now, in that time, I was being groomed to be, based on my radio background, I was groomed to be the play-by-play commentator of the Monster Factory.
Yeah.
I was able to debut for that on Saturday, June 11th, 2016. And part of the reason I do that is
how
because
you remember dates and shit is
well,
amazing.
part of it is because I keep track of it, and part of it is because I just celebrated 6 years to the day when we had our TV event on June 11th of this year.
Okay. TV event.
Well, the name was called TV, and it was leading up to the Step into the Arena show that we had.
Yeah. Now, all right. I've been away from the Monster Factory for quite a while
little bit
now, so
I know
it's everything's a blur there.
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, June 11th, we had our last event before the big event that we had on June 30th of 2022, which was Step into the Arena, and that was where we had definitely our biggest event ever in front of probably about 1,200 fans or so at the 2300 Arena in South Philadelphia, formerly known as the ECW Arena.
Yeah, that was a big event, for sure. I actually watched that whole show live, which I wasn't planning on because I had to take my sister for an operation early in the morning, and and just things were kind of goofy over here. But
Got it.
I ended up, once I started watching it, I just watched the entire thing.
Got hooked in.
Yeah, no, it did. It was definitely long for a month. I wasn't anticipating a 4-hour show. Dan's usually got it right in that like perfect 2-hour sweet spot. I figured this one might go a little longer, but
well, in fairness, there were 13 matches, and one of those was essentially a Royal Rumble match.
Yeah, that
Royal Rumble style match, I should say. The 3-2-1 Rumble, which had
timed entrances,
exactly, and that match alone lasted about a little over 35 minutes bell to bell.
Oh wow, yeah, which is not
with the entrances.
Either.
It was probably closer to 40-45 minutes just for that one match, and then you had 12 other matches on top of it.
Yeah, it was definitely, the card was stacked for sure. Yeah, that match there alone is gonna eat quite a bit of time. And you also had other matches, the 4-way match, which, that main event
was phenomenal and
tremendous.
I
one of the best main events I've seen from the factory.
One of the better main events and one of my better points on commentary as well. And I think that was because between the second to last match and the last match, Kevin Kelly muted our mics while the intro was going on and gave kind of a bit of a part pep talk, but also part kind of casting direction to co-commentator Brian Flatley and I. Mm-hmm. And that's because, as a broadcaster, I know that 3-man booths are not easy in terms of commentary.
Right.
Jim Ross will, he has had lots of not so great things to say about 3-man booths. He prefers 2-man booth, and I understand why.
Yeah, and even just as a fan, sometimes the 3-man booth, especially like you hear it a lot, and it's everywhere. AEW's got a really loaded booth. WWE does. It feels like too much shit coming at you at one time sometimes.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem
it's
as
the
focused.
old adage, too many cooks spoil the broth.
Right. Yeah, it just doesn't seem as focused and keyed in as you can get with the 2-man.
Exactly. And I was kind of focusing, maybe more than I should have, on making sure that nobody was stepping on each other, and I was kind of being the Kevin Kelly after the fact had said, he was expecting more from me as a leader. And, that was one of those like felt grown moments. Like I felt like it was 1986 and I was a Cosby kid,
Right.
like I just, I felt both humbled and kind of like ashamed of myself. But I'd said like that night I was more of a basketball point guard when I should have been more of a power forward.
Right. Yeah. But
But I
that's
did more
that,
of
that's
that
the
in the
benefit
main
of
event, and it was fantastic.
yeah. It was no, it was, and even throughout the night, I felt it was good. Obviously, it's very hard to have poor commentary overall when you have somebody like Kevin Kelly in the booth.
Yeah.
There were times where he really did bring it all together. I think he was phenomenal and really enhanced that show as a whole.
I think maybe he was trying to be that traffic cop, but I was also trying to be that traffic cop, and it wouldn't quite let him. And that might be where things kind of went awry, but that's just me being self-critical.
Yeah, I mean overall,
But even though it didn't really go awry, like that's
yeah,
I'm saying things went awry, but
everything kind of stayed on track. I think it worked out really well. Even like I was watching, my cousin was watching it, and he texted me. He goes, "Wow, like the commentary's really good tonight. Like Kevin Kelly working with those guys is a nice touch."
oh yeah, he definitely brought me up a level, even though I will admit I was kind of scared shitless the whole time because, I don't get starstruck too very often, but
Right.
this was one of those moments of like, holy shit, I'm commentating with Kevin Kelly. Holy shit, I'm commentating with Kevin Kelly. Like that was kind of circling in the back of my brain as I'm trying to do everything else.
And at an important event, nonetheless. Like this wasn't just like a
Typical factory show, which I've done that before. Like
yeah,
I had commentated events with Kevin before, but not to this large of a scale.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, you've commentated with quite a few people, but yeah, this event was it hit different.
It did.
Yeah,
As the kids say, it hit different.
yeah. So
Damn it.
I could see where the nerves would definitely. Who all have you worked? Like, what other notable names have you worked with at this point?
Oh gosh. I mean, Kevin's probably the biggest name. I know I've commentated a card or two with Les Thatcher, who was in for some camps. See, that's the thing. A lot of the wrestling camps focus on the wrestlers. So, like when Kevin Kelly's brought in, it's primarily for promos and for commentary. So I know, like, oh shit, I gotta bring my A+ game tonight. Like I have to do that every time, but even more so when it's like a Christmas story. I have to bring the A+++++ game
Right.
for I know that's a real deep cut.
Yeah, I mean, but like you said, you're working with somebody who's been around, who's done this at an extremely high level for quite a while.
Over a quarter century at this point.
Yeah, so you don't want to come in and
and shit the bed. No.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely not.
I'm trying to get back where we were before we got off.
Went on about 30 billion tangents. Okay, the hernia.
The hernia, yes. So that
All
pretty
right,
much.
So I was
ends
that
it for
pretty
you.
much sidelined me in ring with one exception. About 9 months after the surgery, I made a cameo appearance at Turkey Slam 2017.
Okay.
And that was a hilarious kind of spot. Like people thought, oh, you should do the Jerry Lawler spot where somebody, just like you go in and somebody immediately knocks you out. And I'm thinking, well, I'm the face commentator. There's no reason that anybody's going to have for me to do that. So instead, I kind of went a different route, and this was with Danny Cage's suggestion. I got a little too big for my britches as far as how it worked. So similar thing, it was a Rumble-style match, as the Turkey Slam Rumble is. And everybody had looked toward the entranceway, and the commentary was on the opposite side. So I stood up. My music hit. I do have music, and I stood up, and underneath my suit, I had this burgundy-colored singlet, which I'm sure if I go back and look at it in hindsight, there was definitely some moose knuckle going on. But So
I'll let you go back and look at it.
I'll probably be the only one at this juncture, but either way, you know, I hop into the ring, you know, as I'm going through the crowd, I'm like, yeah, here we go from commentator to champion, you know, because the winner got a heavyweight title shot, and I hop over the ropes and I turn around and I'm face to face with this 6'4", 270-pound, you know, monster known as the Dark Oracle. You know Oracle.
Oh yes.
And I hold my index finger up and kind of point, and I have my jaw dropped long enough for cameraman Sam Lombardo to get the shot of it. A little shout out to Sam. And then I just yell out, "I did not think this through!" And then I immediately slingshot myself over the top rope and eliminate myself.
I remember that now. Yeah, that was a good. It was a good spot, and definitely, yeah, like you said, it made a lot more sense than you. Because you're not a heel. There's no heat there. That whole Lawler thing, in hindsight, doesn't really work that well for you.
Yeah, no. So it was just brilliantly done along the way, and everybody, you know, it was good for a laugh, kind of a little comedic break in the middle of all the chaos that was the Rumble, because it's usually a longer thing.
Yeah.
And that was the last time that I had been in the ring, and that was November of 2017. It was almost 5 years ago now. And in between then and now, physically, I'm pretty sure I'm healed up, but mentally, I'm a goddamn mess.
That's most of us in wrestling.
That's most of
yeah.
Pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and it's just been this like stacking on top of stacking on top of stacking of things.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned my mother passing away. You know, we had to put our dog down right at the same time that I'd gotten COVID. Like, it was just, you know, the shit truck backing into the fan factory.
That's the first time I've ever heard that one, but I'm going to use that in the future for sure, actually.
Hey, I'm a broadcaster. I have a way with words.
He's the broadcast journalist, folks, not me.
Yep.
But with that said, like, was there, did you intend on getting back into the ring at some point, or was it just, at that point, you were just like, all right, I've had the hernias now, I've had my fill?
I don't know. Every once in a while, there's an itch to kind of get back in the ring, and then I see wrestlers taking bumps, and I go, maybe I'm all right here where I'm at.
I feel you on that one.
Because you know, like I see them take bumps and my lower back twitches, and I'm not even taking the bump, and I'm just going, all right, let's not be stupid here. Right. So it's kind of one of those, you know, brains over heart, and there isn't much heart left, so the brains seem to win out.
As long as the brains are working, it's all good.
Yeah, as long as the synapses are somewhat firing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So outside, what are some other things outside of wrestling for you, like that you're doing at this point, or was doing before the pandemic?
Well, before the pandemic, I was definitely enjoying life. Now, I mean, that's probably more candid than I need to be, but I mean, I do a lot on my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Fearon Burgundy, Fearon, Burgundy like the color. Shameless plug. I play a lot of retro games on there. Currently, I've been getting into a lot of Legend of Zelda Randomizer. They take a lot of, the OG Legend of Zelda. You know, it's dangerous to go alone, take this.
Yeah.
They have a randomizer for that where it can shuffle around the items, it can shuffle around the enemies, it can shuffle all kinds of stuff. And it's a lot of fun.
So what do you like, what consoles are you playing on?
Well, a lot of what I do for the retro stuff, I do on emulator. I do have a physical NES, but I'm not very technologically savvy because I'm quickly becoming an old man who yells at a cloud, and Simpsons reference there. And I don't quite know the whole capture card setup to be able to get a physical console onto there. That being
with
said,
the older systems too, it's to get the frame rate right and have it look and sound good. It's a pain in the ass, yeah.
It's a pain in the ass. It's a challenge, exactly. I mean, outside of that, I do have a Wii that is backwards compatible that plays GameCube games.
Okay.
And I do have a Wii U that plays both Wii U and Wii games.
Okay. So, how long? Like, have you been a gamer your whole life, or?
I've been a casual game player. Like, I know that the term gamer is used fairly often, and I don't think that my level of conviction towards a lot of the games within a gaming platform would rightly constitute me utilizing the term gamer, unless it's maybe the GAYMER that a lot of people throw out there. But that's usually for flirtatious purposes that get me nowhere on various male apps.
Gotcha.
You weren't expecting me to go in that direction, were you?
I was not expecting you to go in that direction.
I am a verbal roller coaster ride at times when you get me into like stream of consciousness moments like this.
Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised because I've known you long enough and had enough conversations with you to know he's gonna just throw shit out there out of nowhere sometimes, and when you're least
usually for
expecting
entertainment purposes, but yeah, also just it's whatever's on my mind at the time.
Right. Now, if you were going to sit down and play some games, though, like, are there, like just for personal enjoyment, not for Twitch, like, are there, like, go-tos for you?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think for me, a lot of the Mario sports games are biggies for me. Like, even though they haven't made one in, like, close to 2 decades, the Mario baseball games I'm a big fan of. Mario Superstar Baseball I've been doing a lot of, both on and off stream. Mario Super Sluggers for the Wii is the other big one. I'm also a big Mario Golf guy.
Yeah. I never played the N64 version because I never had an N64 growing up, but I did have the Game Boy Color version, and I played the fuck out of that as I hit my mic. I played the fuck out of that game as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, and Toadstool Tour for the GameCube was really good, and I think they just came out with one for for Switch. One of those S words that's new that I'm all like, eh? Yeah, technology.
Dude, it's getting to the point though. With technology that even I'm like, all right, everything's moving too fucking fast. Like, let's slow down for a minute. Because like it's moving as compared to when I was younger, like
exponentially faster.
Exponentially faster, yeah. Like I didn't get a PlayStation 1 until probably 98 98-ish. Now, what year did Warzone come out?
WWF Warzone?
Yeah.
I feel like that was around that time, maybe late 97, but I'm going to corroborate that myself here. No, I was right the first time. It was released on PlayStation in North America July 24th, 1998.
Okay. So, yes, I didn't
And then N64 a couple of weeks later, August 11th, 1998.
Right. So I didn't get a PlayStation 1 till maybe a few months before that. Or no, it might even been after that, because my dad got it for his birthday, which is in June. And I remember getting Warzone not too long after, or wanting to go to the video store and rent it all the time. But that system came out in like 95. And even now, like, I guess the timeline between consoles isn't that much different, but the leap in shit I guess the technology-wise, maybe games aren't the way to go with explaining it, but like the cell phones and computers and shit. I don't know, maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm not that smart with technology either. But it does. Everything just seems to be... It's like every time something comes out, it's like right around the corner something new's coming out to replace it.
Well, I mean, the generations aren't lasting as long, I don't think. I mean, in PlayStation's case, like that came out in 95, N64 came out in 96, Sega Saturn in 95, and most of those, I think PlayStation probably lasted the longest going, I mean, officially it went until 2006, but, you know, it's one of those where, you know, once another system comes out, it's kind of on its death knell. But it was officially discontinued in March of 2006. But the PlayStation 2 came out in 2000, just 5 years after the original PlayStation came out.
Yeah, because I remember, like, getting the PlayStation, and then not very long after, like, here comes the PlayStation 2. It was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of looking at all of it and seeing, I mean, the Nintendo Switch has been around for quite a while, and, you know, it's kind of like, all right, how long are we before what's next, you know?
Right. But it also seems like Nintendo kind of puts their shit out when they want to, whereas like Microsoft and Sony are kind of like, once one of them's got something coming out, they're both trying to get it
They're
out
trying
there
to one
at
up
the same,
one another.
yeah. Whereas Nintendo's kind of just like, well, we'll put it out when it's ready.
Yeah, it's very Coke and Pepsi in that regard.
Yeah.
Like, they're just one trying to outdo the other.
Yeah. Which is incredible, too, though, that, like, because, like, Nintendo was the, like, for, like, you or I growing up, like, Nintendo was the standard. Everybody had the Nintendo systems. And now it's like, you know, Sega's not even around anymore as far as consoles go. They're strictly publishing now. The console war now is pretty much Sony and Xbox. Microsoft.
Yeah, which is weird because I didn't really get too much into either of those, but as I say that, there are two games that are PlayStation 2 and 3 only, respectively, that I'm kind of like, man, I wish I could play that again, and now I'd have to get those respective systems or their digital thing to be able to do so. For PlayStation 2, it was Xenosaga, which is an RPG.
Okay.
And for PlayStation 3, which I just got like into watching Let's Plays of in the last week or so, Infamous.
Okay, I've heard of it. I've never actually played it, though.
Yeah, neither of them were nearly as popular as some of the other series, but yeah, Infamous had a very weird, like, post-apocalyptic type thing where you basically chose your path of either good or evil.
Okay.
And then, yeah, everything kind of branches based off of that.
Yeah. See, I was also never really a big RPG guy.
Gotcha.
So that might be
why,
too.
Infamous was definitely not an RPG by any means. Like, Xenosaga was, but Infamous was, I don't even know what, I'm looking, so that's that way I can find out here. It was more of an action-adventure video game. It was made by Sucker Punch Productions.
Okay.
But that was, God, crazy to think that was like 13 years ago. It came out in 2009. And something that definitely dates it in 2009 is the communication system has, whatever those cell phones were that chirped, that, and then you talked into them.
Oh my God, the walkie-talkie ones, the Nextel
ones. Yep,
the Nextel. How do I even remember that shit?
You remember it better than I do. I heard that chirp and I'm like, I remember it, but I couldn't tell you who the hell made it. But yeah, you're better off than me remembering it's Nextel.
Yeah, I literally, of all the things I fucking forget on a day-to-day basis, I remember that shit. Are you kidding me?
And I just bring it out of nowhere to, oh man.
Oh,
So
you know what?
I'm
And
looking
maybe
it up
it's
here just
because
to
I've
give you an
been.
idea. I don't know if it's consoles so much because the differential's been pretty similar, at least in Nintendo's case. The
Yeah,
NES came out in '83. The Super Nintendo came out 7 years later in '90. The N64 came out in '96, so that was a 6-year gap.
yeah.
Then a 5-year gap for N64 to GameCube. Another 5-year gap from GameCube to Wii. 6 years from Wii to Wii U, and then 5 years from Wii U to Switch.
So yeah,
So
it
you would
has stayed
think
pretty consistent.
it has been pretty consistent, at least for Nintendo, as far as their consoles. So you would think that in the next year or two, they're going to give you something else, maybe.
Possibly. I don't know if maybe the Switch hasn't. I think the Switch might have some more life to it, though.
Yeah, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, well, I think you got to look at the whole. It's not just a dedicated console, but it's also the handheld thing.
It's a combo deal because Nintendo loves their various add-ons and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think the Switch might have a little bit longer a lifespan, as compared to other systems, but at the same time, yeah, like I could totally see them bringing something new out. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many DSs do we have at this point?
That is fair. I mean, I never had a DS, but that is that is spot on. As I'm looking at it here, PlayStation actually has been a little bit longer between, as it was 6 years between PlayStation and PS2, 6 between PS2 and PS3, 7 years between PS3 and PS4, and 7 years between PS4 and PS5.
Huh. So yeah, I guess I had no idea what I was talking about. Thanks for
I mean,
burying me, Fearon.
I'm just fact checking. It's what I do as a broadcast journalist. I
Yeah.
corroborate facts.
We're not One American News. We actually check the facts around here.
He went there. Okay.
Hey,
Oh my goodness.
once you
Yeah, we
said
don't
fact
dispel
checking,
bullshit. Yeah, exactly. As soon as I said fact checking, I knew that I just lined myself up for it.
right on out there. Yeah, so the consistency is definitely there, but yeah, it does feel like technology, like it's hard to keep up with. It's just difficult to keep up with. I can't even keep up with my fucking iPhone anymore between goddamn updates because they keep changing shit. It's like, just fucking
Are you
stop.
telling? I still have an iPhone 7.
What are we even up to now?
I want to say 13, but I'm not sure. Maybe 14. I don't. Where's let me go to the researchy thing.
And even 13 or 14, that's without taking into consideration C, D, F, J, X, Y, Z versions.
GFY. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, 13 Pro Max looks to be there's 13, there's 13 Mini, 13 Pro, 13 Pro Max. What the shit?
What? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like, how many fucking different, like...
Oh, they seem to do, around one a year.
Yeah, but still, it's like, how many people are getting new phones so fucking, like... Why?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. I mean, the iPhone 7, the one I have, came out in 2016, and its operation life was, as far as a lot of things, was until 2019. So I'm 3 years overdue for a new phone.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm gonna look now to see what fucking era I'm in here. Maybe I'm not, because I'm literally struggling to figure out how to do that on this goddamn thing.
Yeah, they're up to iOS 16.
8, so I'm only one ahead of you. I have the 8.
All right. Well, apparently I'm going to have to upgrade soon, because as I'm looking at this, when iOS 16 is a thing or supported release, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus does not support it. So As much as I've been clinging onto this for months, the iOS update is probably going to have to be my last hurrah, and I'm going to have to reluctantly and begrudgingly get a new phone.
Yeah, I hate getting a new phone. I changing everything, like, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I think I've gone through like 6 phones in my cell phone lifetime. The first one was one of those like Nokia bricks that I had back in like '99.
Oh,
like
I remember my
change
mom
phones
having
often.
one of those. Yeah.
That was like my first year of. Oh God, that was my freshman year of college. Son of a bitch.
Fearon is having...
I'm having like a life crisis, not even a midlife crisis anymore.
Well, you still got a couple more years before we're at the midlife crisis stage.
Well, you might be. I'm turning 41 in a week and a half.
Yeah, but come on, well, I guess that's midlife.
Wait, you expecting me to live longer than Betty White? Come on now.
Maybe. Who knows? If anybody could do it, I could see you doing it, Fearon.
Only out of spite. Like, why are you keeping me here? I wanted to be done 10 years ago. As I look up to the sky to whatever being of choice.
Yeah, or whatever clouds
Or
there.
none, yeah, whatever clouds there. 'Cause I'm back to yelling at the clouds. I'm an old man.
Yeah. All right, there you have it. My conversation with Fearon Burgundy, longtime friend, all around, just such a great guy. Glad I got to chat it up with him for a little bit. And actually, the episode was originally a little bit longer, but due to technical and audio issues, I had to chop it down quite a bit, unfortunately, which is why it probably seems a little like it ends a little abruptly there at the end. But I had wanted to at least use and put out what I could. So there you have it. Come back on Monday. We'll be back here. I'll be back here on Monday. I promise this time. With my conversation with Getty Cahoon for Horror Movie Monday. We are going to chat it up about... We already did chat it up. It's been sitting on my hard drive for a while now. But we're going to chat it up about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also, in the coming weeks, it's almost Halloween, and I have decided to... You may actually get a couple things on Halloween, but nothing's for certain yet. I'm still trying to figure out technical shit for some of the ideas I have. But there will be a Horror Movie Monday on Halloween. There'll be one before that, too, because there's still a Monday before Halloween between now and Halloween. But I'm going to come on here solo for Halloween and discuss basically how the Halloween franchise molded me into a horror movie fan and really kind of introduced me to the genre. So that's going to be fun. I look forward to that. I've been kind of writing notes and stuff like that. And it's been fun kind of reminiscing and going back and kind of piecing together how Halloween led me to all the other films and stuff in horror that basically just made me a horror kid. That's really it. It made me a horror kid. I'm a 32-year-old horror kid now who hasn't grown up, but hey, fuck it. It's not that bad. So that is coming up. If you guys want to keep tabs on the show and myself, follow me on Instagram at Corvo Riot 138 on Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter at Corvo GNF on Twitter. You can also follow the show on Instagram at I'm sorry. You can follow the show on Instagram at The Corvo Riot Show. And check it out on YouTube, the Corvo Riot YouTube channel. Full episodes of the podcast go up there. Also be uploading some just clips and snippets here and there in the coming days and weeks. So go over there, like, subscribe, check it out, and come back on Monday for my conversation with not Gabriel Hodder, I'm sorry. I've been fucking out of it for so long, I forget where I'm at episode-wise. My conversation with Getty Cahoon, all about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Monday. But you can go back and re-listen to my episode with Gabriel Hodder where we talked all about Friday the 13th. That episode is up in the archives right now. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen. Thank you for subscribing, following, whatever it is you've done. And I'll see you again on Monday. Take care.